Her name is Nina Hastie. She's a comedian. She's a TV and radio presenter. She's a writer. She's an actress. Some of you may know her as the host of late night talk show Trending SA. She's been nominated for various awards and she's hosted various awards. I would like you guys to please give a wonderful G4G welcome to Miss Nina Hastie. Welcome, Nina.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome.
So much. Thank you. Hi. Sorry, I was moving around quite a lot. I wanted to get some light on my face and without it being too distracting. I've also got quite interesting art, which can be quite distracting in the background. So now you're looking at my kitchen. So anyway, hello everybody. Hi ladies. Hello ladies. I am so excited to chat to you guys today. You know, thank you first of all, Val, for inviting me. I really appreciate it. This is such an incredible initiative. I've just been chatting to a few of my friends and in my girls WhatsApp group, you know, just saying how powerful this is and how this should be compulsory for every grade 11 and grade 12 girl in the country. And if we can advocate for some kind of expansion of this project and, you know, make it more accessible to as many people, I'd love to be involved in that. This is my cat. She's not allowed to even be in this building. Okay. My therapy cat. Anyway, so it's so funny. So Val gave me a ring and asked me to get involved with this. And it's actually coincided with a whole plan and with my blueprint and where I'm at the moment. So I'm repositioning myself from like a comedian, or as some people would know me as a television presenter, into more of a mental health and social education advocate. Not because I don't think that comedy is important. I'm certainly going to be using comedy in all of these things that I do, but I just feel that now that I've got this kind of reach, that I can start doing the work that I always really wanted to do. So I've divided my talk into 4 segments. This is a talk that I've started doing over the years, particularly in Women's Month. Last year I did a lot of speaking on I don't know how to put this, but like sort of like sexual violence and like all the, stop it, sorry, my cat is literally knocking my laptop now. Surviving sexual violence and those kinds of things. And it can actually be quite traumatizing and emotional to speak about all the time. So I'd like to just, I'm gonna try and condense this as much as possible. Also, because so many things happened over the years, it was very difficult for me to kind of go, what happened when, and actually to track the timeline. So I'm very grateful for this opportunity to be able to give you a clear, well-researched and succinct conversation. Okay, so I'm just going to give you some information for my milestones. I'm 37 years old. I have been doing, hello? So I'm 37. I've been involved in comedy for many years, but I just want to start off. So I matriculated in 2001. But before I was even, I want to look at all of you guys at the same time. Can I just see all of your, can everyone just give me a wave? Are you with me so that I can see and feel your energy? Hello, hello, hello. Thank you. All right. So I'm gonna track back. So I matriculated in 2001. When I was in grade 9, I became a member of the SRC, and I was an executive member. I also sat on the governing body of the school and was responsible for rewriting the school code of conduct, making sure that students had a more of a say, and also created a sister partnership with Mamelodi Secondary School in order to, so I went to Willow Ridge High School in the east of Pretoria, in order to just share some of our insights as a student body about human rights and children's rights and student rights in that space and time. I was then shortlisted for junior mayor of Pretoria, but I think the position went to a boy, as it would have in the 90s. Also, it wasn't very it was very difficult in the 90s in Pretoria East, which was a very conservative and still very racist environment, to be involved in projects like that. It wasn't something that was encouraged or anything by members of my community and things like that. We'll talk about that just now, but what I really want to talk to is what a beautiful space we're in 2020 in South Africa, where so many young women have agency and freedom, access to internet, and be able to have their voice, particularly on social media platforms where you can see active social change that is happening within global movements like Me Too, etc., and Black Lives Matter. So a lot of my work has started in the 90s and carries on right through to now in terms of my social change advocacy. All right, so that's standard 7, grade 9. I matriculate in 2001. And this is, I had to track this down because it was all very blurry. From about 2001 till 2013 is very blurry. I know it sounds crazy to say a 12-year period is blurry, but it is. So there's a trauma that happens in 2001. I just finished school and I was a victim of rape. Some boys that I went to school with, actually, anyway, there were 2 incidences in that December of me finishing school. So I was between 18 and 19, and like I think my second ever sexual experience was a date rape situation, and the second one was the boys from school that had sort of kidnapped me and took me to a field, and there was that sort of experience. But what had happened in that period, there was like a December holiday. I did something really stupid and dodgy. And the reason I'm bringing all of this up is because I want to talk about the pillars of your village. Now, there's a reason that I need to explain this so that you understand how important that is. So at the end of matric, I had hooked up with my friend's boyfriend, and all the girls in my group were very they were just disgusted in me, and I was sort of like kicked out of the friendship group. I didn't go on matric vacation, and I was isolated from all my friends. In the meantime, about a week after all of this happened, the sexual violence issue happened. So now I didn't have any friends to talk to, and I didn't speak to my family about this. So it was a very, very lonely time for me, and it was very difficult because I basically just kept all of that information inside of me, and I had no one to talk to. And not long after that, maybe about 6 months after that, I had met sort of the first love of my life. And I had found a lot of solace in this relationship. I'm sort of 19 years old. I move in with this DJ from Joburg, and I get engaged to this guy at like 20 years old, you know. So I had then isolated myself from my family. I had no more friends anymore. I only had this relationship with this guy, and that became my entire universe. And as a result, a lot of my socialization lacked a village. It lacked the support and guidance, and just sometimes reality checking with anyone. No family, no friends, and I had only this relationship. And when that relationship fell apart, I had no support structure, and that was when my alcohol and drug abuse sort of really kicked in, because I had no pillars. So I mean, I was listening to Nancy Keen's conversation. That was the video that was the homework vibes, and she really talks about establishing your village. So it takes me about another 10 years, or let's say, yeah, about 9 years. So I've tracked here from about the trauma of 2004 all the way to about 2013. There are some wins in that space. I work for Sony Music International, get this amazing job. I start studying film. I have like these markers. I start doing stand-up comedy. So I'm doing all of this in the forefront of my life, but in the background, there's a lot of pain and there's a lot of trauma and an unidentified sort of mental health issue as well. So I've got all this other struggle that's happening behind the scenes, and just no way to like root and reach out to people and say, listen, I don't know what I'm doing. And So this sounds very difficult, and it's difficult not to conflate different issues. So there's a few things that are happening in the world. At this stage, there's like the social revolution of South Africa that's happening, and me being a huge advocate of already then how Black Lives Matter and assimilating into South African society as best I can with my best understanding, but also coming up against my family the whole time, coming up against people I grew up with, my friends who didn't necessarily have the same understanding or experience that I did. And like, just as a country, we haven't been re-socialized. We just didn't know how to communicate with each other. I know this sounds vague, but I hope that that part is landing. But I'm gonna skip through this and then just talk about why this is important. Okay, so these are the traumas and the milestones that sort of happen. Through a course of events, I eventually start becoming more and more of an alcoholic. My behavioral patterns become more abusive, violent, dishonest. There was a lot of lying, stealing, just really bad behavior that eventually landed me up in a situation where I had no options anymore. And in 2011, I think, I landed up sleeping on a floor at this drug dealer's house house is a strong word, at this drug den in Braamfontein with a bunch of other sort of like West African refugees, for want of a better term. There was all these like Cameroonian like drug dealer types, and there wasn't a bed, there wasn't anything. I'm just sleeping on the floor. This place has like rats. It was just the most traumatizing thing. And because I'd been cut off from my family, because they didn't, wanted me to stop doing all the things that I was doing, and they had just run out of energy with me, there was really it was just very difficult. And this guy essentially was beating me physically. I didn't have money. He wouldn't let me work. It was just really a very traumatizing time in my life. And I'd lost everything because I'd like left my car. My gran had loaned me a car. I had left it at this place where we were renting, and we couldn't afford the rent. And this guy impounded my car. It was just like, basically I'd lost everything, and I'd lost hope, and I'd lost connection. And it was just a very, very testing and trying time. My next step to get out of that place, some money had come into my account from a voiceover I did about a year ago. A client had owed me money, and the money came into my account. And I ran away in the middle of the night, somehow managed to get to the airport, and I went to Cape Town with this big blue eye and like bruises all the way down my body. And I arrived at my mother's sister's house in Cape Town, and obviously traumatized their entire family. Imagine just rocking up at someone's house beaten. It was really quite traumatizing. My behavior just affected other people quite significantly. Nonetheless, once I got down there, I ended up getting a job at Madame Zingara, which was the circus. It moved around, and that way I could get accommodation as well as a job at the same time. So Madame Zingara moves up to Johannesburg. I'm still using a lot of, I'm still drinking heavily and using drugs. There's a lot of people in that space that were heavy drug users. Even the like management of the circus, they would give us drugs to keep sure that, we were active and maintained a certain level of energy. It was actually a very abusive environment. My hair started falling out at this point. I lost my body had gone through so much stress over the years that it actually couldn't sustain keeping my hair in my head anymore. So it triggered an autoimmune disease called alopecia, where all my hair fell out. And I was just really tired. My nervous system was shot. It was just really, really hectic. So I think at that stage, because my family could physically see that this child actually is incapable of basic human health, my mom said that I was allowed to come home for 3 months to sort of recover from this and get back on track. I came home. I got an amazing opportunity to go to, this is now 2012, it's the London Olympics. I got this incredible opportunity to do a stand-up comedy gig in London. I had never been overseas before. I could never afford it. And this miracle happens. My mom was like, how do you do it, Lovey? How are you the biggest stuff up in the world? And then 2 minutes later, you get an opportunity to go to the Olympics. I don't understand you, child, but that's just also how I do things. I'm either an extremely good loser or an extremely good winner. There's no sort of middle ground between any of these places. Nonetheless, I get this opportunity. I go to London and I try and do, I stop drinking. I try and do this on my own. But I managed not to do it on my own. And this is going to bring me to my next segment of the talk, which is tools. So these are the milestones. I do these amazing things, these traumatizing things happen to me, but I still managed to achieve like quite phenomenal things in the meantime. Studied a little bit of film. I was a marketing manager, went to the Olympics, joined the circus, all of these crazy things, but I didn't have any tools. So 2013 hits. It's the 16th of October, 2013. I walk into an AA room with a friend of mine who I say to her, she's got a drinking problem. I take her to AA. I said, you know, my girl, you've got a drinking problem. Let me take you to AA. Then it'll sort your life out. I didn't realize that I was projecting my issues onto her. I take her into the space. And when I sat down in that meeting, I realized, oh, I've got a drinking problem. Okay, cool. And from that day, I never had a drink again. That was almost 7 years ago. So this was my first tool that I used of recovery and making myself a better member of society. So I used AA. I still use a lot of those steps. So there's a 12-step program, and it's about spiritual enlightenment and being honest with yourself and taking stock of your life, etc., etc. The second tool that I used was something called Landmark Forum, which is also a self-development workshop where you do a lot of work on eliminating the stories and the lies that you tell yourself as excuses for your bad behavior. I used that as a tool. I now see a cognitive behavioral therapist who helps me using changing my behavior by virtue of changing my behavior. So cognitive behavioral therapy teaches you that you don't use your mind to change your behavior, but you use your behavior to change your behavior. For example, if you sit at home and think thin, I'm thin all day, right? But you're stuffing your face filled with chocolates and cake. Do you think you're going to lose weight? No, you're not going to lose weight. But if you stop eating chocolates and you start eating salad and chicken and whatever every day, and you start feeling better because now all of a sudden you've eliminated sugar. The next day you've got more energy to exercise. The next day you're exercising, so now you feel like eating more vegetables. The knock-on effect of good behavior breeds more good behavior. So that's another tool that I use. I went to a dietitian to help me understand how to better access my body and energy. I use spiritual guides. I try and immerse myself in my own spirituality, whatever yours is, find mentors in that space. And then business. So these are the different tools that I use to create better spaces. And this is where I'm going to come to. There's two major things that are very important. Now, with business, in 2013, I registered myself, Nina Hastie, as a business, Nina Hastie Pty Limited. I did a SWOT analysis on myself. I found out what my strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats were. And I created an entire structure, a 360 brand plan, and as well as a business plan of how I could immerse myself back into society as a comedian, voice artist, writer, and see where I needed to put more of my energy into developing these spaces. From that space, I was able to create a 5-year plan in order to carry out all of these things. So now I'm walking into life with tools, structured tools, in order to find the best way forward for myself. Because I also had this chip on my shoulder thinking that I'd lost all of this time. I'd lost 12 years to drinking, drugs, alcohol, stupid relationships, all of these kinds of things, trauma. I really felt that I had to catch up with everybody else that was my age. I needed to catch up with them because I had lost all this time. I needed to I didn't even have a knife and fork, guys. I had nothing. I had the clothes on my back. My friends still mock me, the Goliaths, because one year we went to Grahamstown Festival and I had all my belongings in my backpack. And a friend of mine loaned me, I think, 700 Rand to go to Grahamstown National Arts Festival. And I had flyers in my backpack, and then the clothes that I owned were the ones I was wearing. They always tease me. They're like, oh, remember when your jeans were so gray? They were black jeans, but they were gray because it's I washed them so many times. It's the only pants I had. Anyway, they still tease me because anyway, I've come a long way since then. I was bald and I had no clothes. They thought it was very funny. It's also important to have friends that help you not take yourself too seriously. Okay, so I'm going to say those are the tools that I started using. But one of the most important tools I'm going to come back to later is the cognitive behavioral therapy and how I created a blueprint. That's going to be in my methodology section 4. Now, here's some insights, right? What I realized is that I was the only woman in the stand-up comedy space. There were 1 or 2 other women. There's Tumi Morake joined after I'd started comedy, and Celeste Ntuli. We had started at the same, but she was in KZN and I was in Joburg. There were so many men in this industry that what happens is you can't really make a change in a society if you are one. Say, for example, there's 10 people in a society, 10 people at a table, and 9 of those people are men, and one of those people is a woman. You as a woman don't have another ally in that space to make active change. And often what happens is that woman lands up assimilating into the psychology and the nature and the culture of those 9 men. And there isn't someone else to help you say, actually, this is my experience. You know, the concept of a seat at the table is really, really important. And only after Gilly Apter, Claudine Ullman, Litlem Simang, these women had entered the comedy world and sort of became my allies in checking the male behavior, and actually not just checking the male behavior, but realizing how I might have assimilated into their kind of behavior. Did I really find a sense of understanding what it means to be a feminist? I had no idea. I thought I was a feminist, but actually I wasn't. And it really made a difference that there were other women in the space. As a result, I felt safe. I shared my insights with them, and I created this mentorship program for other female comedians. I helped them with the lessons that I'd learned, helped them structure their businesses. How do you do taxes as an artist? How do you structure your business as an artist? Let's look at your performance. Let's try and see how I can give you better insights about your performance, or maybe you can help me with insights about my performance. And then we started creating lower barriers to entry for other women entering comedy. For example, comedy is hard to get to the places. The places are usually dodgy bars in far areas. If you don't have a car, you have to get a lift or a taxi. I used to catch a bus and a taxi and then still try and get a lift from Pretoria when I was still living in Pretoria to get to Newtown in Johannesburg. The places, there's no taxis at night, there's no transport at night, people are drinking, it's dangerous. So the border to entry into comedy as a woman is really hard, not just because of women saying things on stage, but the logistical element of it being dangerous and happening at night. So offering other women lifts, offering people, you know, just support on that level, starting your own comedy nights where more women can jump on, as opposed to the male comedy nights where they just let their friends onto the thing, so that you can grow and get better because you've had more opportunities to perform. It's so, so important to allow other women into your circle, not just for them, but for you. That's really important. So I spoke about women entering assimilation. I only realized this year how the trauma of not having friends at that time to speak about that thing, how very important it is to have a community of people that you can lean in on, a small circle of trust. Who is in your inner circle? Who can you trust? And hanging around with the right people. Guys, you know, your parents say this, that don't hang around with scolies, don't hang around with people that smoke and take drugs, and, you know, stay away from those bad people. That thing is true. Stay away from other people. If people, like if your family members are saying those people are bad people, they've probably got better judgment than you do from the outside. Try and find people that are successful, people that are good at their sports, or people that immerse themselves in activities, good hobbies, something athletic, something like that. It's really, really important to surround yourself with women that are doing good things. Your friendship group is so, so important. It is paramount to surround yourself with people that you can trust. Very, very important. And also feel free to leave friends that aren't good for you. Just because you grew up with someone doesn't mean that they're a good person. Just because someone is your cousin doesn't mean they're a good person. Status, like as in, oh, but it's my cousin and we're related. That doesn't mean anything. You're allowed to cut that person off. They could be toxic. Just because you've known someone since you were 2 doesn't make them a good person. You can cut them off if they're toxic. You're allowed to. You're allowed to choose yourself. That's really important. Something that Nancy Kern said that I say all the time is life is long. Stop acting like life is short. I thought I was going to die by the time I was 30. That's why I lived life at full tilt. I was like, I'm going to die anyway, so I might as well just behave in a way, I do whatever, have unprotected sex. Guys, the fact that I never contracted a serious disease by the things that happened to me, I think God just really loved me, and I'm not tempting fate any further. Use protection. Life is long. I know that sounds like such a stupid thing to be talking about, but it's really, really important. Life is long. You need to think about life being long. Don't make short-term decisions. I tweeted something yesterday which went viral. I just want to find this tweet, and it speaks to everything that we're saying. And I want you guys to write this down. Normalize being a single woman and being independent and having a meaningful, fulfilled life without needing a partner to validate your existence. So this goes viral, and a lot of people were like, what do you mean, partnerships are great, being married is great. I'm like, yes, those things are already normal. What I would like people to realize is normalize putting yourself first. Normalize putting the priority of your own education, your own happiness, sorting out your own financial security, your own sense of community, being allowed to be a community leader, being allowed to be somebody that has influence over your small group of friends, being allowed to be the person that other people rely on. Allow yourself that. You don't have to wait for Prince Charming to come and help you from the side of the road. You are Prince Charming. Nobody's coming for you. No one's going to come and rescue you, guys. No husband is going to be the answer to all your prayers. No boss is going to be the answer to all your prayers. You are the answer to all your prayers. It's inside of you, and you can create that opportunity when you free yourself and in your mind of that, to tell the next woman that they can free themselves and their mind of that. You are allowed to be successful. You are allowed to be independent. That's okay. So that's the other thing. Now I'm going to talk about methodology. Good habits, honesty with yourself. I find myself, there's a lot of stuff where there was stories that I had told myself that were complete nonsense. Things that I had said to other people because I wanted them to feel sorry for me so that they could come and rescue me. I used to play this damsel in distress act with a lot of people, with my family, with my friends, so that they could come and rescue me. And it speaks to that previous point of allowing yourself to be independent. Stop talking BS to yourself. Take stock of your own things. Why am I in this situation? How many of my behavioral traits led me to this? Okay, maybe it's not my behavioral traits. Maybe this environment has led me to that. But once you start being honest with yourself, you can start making those distinctions. Take stock of your life and your behaviors with other people regularly. How have I hurt this person this week? Let's look at my life this week. What have I done? Okay, cool. I've achieved XYZ on my to-do list. But you know what? I was actually quite nasty to that person, gosh, okay, you know what? I don't need to have that untied, like a loose thread in my life. Let me go and make right with that person. With my neighbors, I had people drilling in the walls or whatever. It really upset them. Took them a chocolate and I said, listen, I'm terribly sorry that I upset your week. I understand how noise can affect you. Something as silly as that. Take stock of all the relationships and things in your life so that you can make amends with people. Create structure in your life. So sorry, habits, honesty, take stock, structure. Structure is so important. Even if it's a matter of, I work best at night, create an opportunity for yourself to work best at night. Try and create a situation where you exercise twice a week. Create a routine and structure for yourself so that you can be more effective. Those things are very, very important. If you're not getting enough sleep, if you're not drinking enough water, if you're not eating properly, these things affect your mental health, they affect your behavior, they affect the way that you're treating other people. Routine, routine, routine. I can't say enough of that. Feedback, guys. Take feedback from people. And this speaks to having good people around you. If you've got good people around you, they can give you feedback about your behavior regularly. Take feedback and be brave enough and courageous enough to take feedback from people. This is going to help you. If people say, listen, that wasn't actually cool, or you know what, you do this thing where you're actually quite a selfish person, or you do this thing where you're actually quite shitty and you give me those like cheeky eyes the whole time and it doesn't make me feel good. Take the feedback and be brave and courageous enough to change your behavior. Be accountable and have people that you're accountable to. If you're going to make all these decisions for yourself, I'm going to diet, I'm going to exercise, I'm going to do my to-do list or whatever, make sure that there's an accountability for yourself and an accountability partner external to that you can find. I know I'm giving you guys a lot of information, but if you go and you listen to this later, it's going to make a lot of sense. Find somebody to help you stay accountable to yourself. It's very important. I'm going to say 2 more things and then I'm finished. 3 more things. When you wake up in the morning, it is important to start your day with a tone. If you want to start your day breathing, or if you want to start your day stretching, I think that for me, the most powerful way to start a day is with gratitude. A prayer of gratitude is so much more powerful than a prayer of supplication. And what that means is, if you start your day with going, thank you so much for all of these things that I have, that on an energetic level is so much more powerful than saying, please, I need this, please, I need that, because now you are positioning your brain in a space where you don't have enough. You already have enough. There is space for more. There's an energetic space for more for you and more for other people. When you start operating your first thought of the day, when you are acting in lack, when you're acting in not enough, in acting I need, it's all about me, that energy, you're going to take it throughout your day, and every experience you're going to have with people is going to smell of that, and it's gross. Stop it. Be grateful. You're enough, and what you have is enough. Anything else is extra, and you can also add energy to other people's spaces, and that's what setting yourself in gratitude is all about for me. Blueprint. Okay, I'm going to end with this. You guys, if you don't have a plan, you're not going to get anywhere. You have to have a plan. If I think about the years that I wasted, had I had a plan, I wouldn't have been able to be swayed with the Joel, with a circus, with being somebody else's hype man, or being my ex-boyfriend's motivational speaker. None of those things are actually in my plan. If I have a vision, I have goals underneath that vision, and then I have a blueprint of a structured plan, how in 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 5 years, I have a 20-year plan. I know that seems quite anal, but I don't care. I don't care what other people's opinions are. I have a 20-year plan because life is long, and I need to make sure that I achieve those things. And if I have those things that I need to be accountable to, I can't be distracted by other people's nonsense and and other people's ideas and other people's plans. If you don't have a plan for yourself, you're going to land up working for somebody else and fulfilling their plan. And that's pathetic. Why would you want to be fulfilling someone else's plan when you have an entire opportunity to be the best version of yourself? So, ladies, I know I've given you a very intense, structured thing about life, but if I can leave you with one thing, have a plan. Don't be afraid to have a plan. Vision, goals, structure, and routine underneath all of that. It is absolutely imperative. You're allowed to be this person. Okay, thanks. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much, Nina. Thank you. I see there's one quote, one request for you to please repeat the tweet, if you don't mind. Actually, there are two asking you to please repeat the tweets again. Are you there, Nina?
You're on mute, Nina.
You're on mute.
What I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to paste it into the chat.
Okay.
Normalize being a single woman and being independent and having a meaningful, fulfilled life without needing a partner to validate your existence. And a lot of people, there was actually a lot of drama about this tweet because there were a lot of people saying, yeah, but Nina, yeah, but, you know, and I was just like, the fact that I have to defend this statement says so much about society. There are so many people that have not allowed themselves this opportunity. They're still so stuck in the idea that relationships are more important than yourself as a human being and validating yourself as a woman in society.
Absolutely. Okay, girls, questions for Nina, please. Who has some questions? This is your chance, ladies. Anyone?
Hi, Val.
Yes, go ahead.
Val?
Go ahead.
Before the girls go on, Nina, thank you for that. It's really, I mean, I'm sure it's inspiring to the girls, and the best bit is it's the truth. It's your truth, and you couldn't have said it better than that. And the fact that, you know, you've told the girls to live their truth and not to rely on anybody to validate them, because a lot of girls, they need validation, and that's the problem. You don't need to be validated by other people other than yourself and how you feel about yourself. So I think that is, I mean, that's wonderful. And being grateful every morning when you wake up, rather than being in need. I need. She doesn't have enough, and it's discouraging when you see that she does have enough. She just needs to accept what she has. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Suicidal. Anyone else? Questions?
Hi, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Ma'am, I wanted to ask Nina if in life she was how did she feel when her family the meanwhile.
We didn't quite catch that. How did Nina feel when her family?
Had like lost faith in her, like when it had.
What I heard is, Nina, how did you feel when you unmute, Nina?
So I think it was partly at the time because do you mind muting yourself again? Sorry, it's a bit noisy. Ask the question just to mute yourself. Is that possible?
I'm trying to mute her.
There we go. Thank you. I think there were so many things happening at the time, and I was still very much, when you don't know how to be honest with yourself, it's very easy to blame other people. So it's their fault that they don't want to speak to me because they don't understand where I'm at. They're racist. They don't understand the youth. They're this, that, you know, like it's easy to project your own ideas onto people and blame them for stuff like that's happening in your own head when you don't really know what the problem is. So I might have been in pain and I might have been looking for connection with them, but I was so attached to them being wrong about everything that I couldn't see to protect myself from the pain that I was actually feeling of not having the connection of family. So it's easier to create another story in your head about why people don't speak to you or why something is happening when you're trying to protect yourself from the true pain that's actually there. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Nina, I've got another question. Where do you find this, from Fiska, where do you find the strength to keep going, especially in an industry that is male dominated?
So this is the thing. Willpower doesn't help anybody. It's a very short-lived experience. Like, oh, I'm never going to eat sugar again, or I'm going to exercise 17 times this week. Willpower is not going to get you anywhere. Where I find the strength is in my plan. If I've created a plan that has the things that I have to achieve, that is where I find the strength, in the structure, in being accountable to my goals by someone external. You can't just find strength in yourself because sometimes the motivation doesn't exist. You know, you might be going through a week of depression. Yeah. Let me show you something. I'm going to draw you a graph. This, my cognitive behavioral therapist taught me something. This is here's a graph, right? Okay. So if here's somebody on this side of the graph, I need a Cokie. This is if you only act when you're feeling good, you behave well, but when you're feeling bad, you don't exercise. Then you feel good, then you exercise. When you don't feel good, you don't exercise. When you feel good, you exercise. Where's
You muted, Nina, you muted?
Sorry, I don't know how that happened. Okay, so say for example, you want to behave, you want to go gym, yeah? So you gym when you feel good, you don't gym when you don't feel good. You gym when you feel good, you don't gym when you don't feel good. The average of that behavior is in the middle of this line, right? Across the board, eventually. Now, if I want to actually succeed and not just be average, I've got to exercise when I don't feel good. I exercise when I do feel good. I exercise when I don't feel good. And the average of that is much higher than another person's. So you've got to be in a situation where you are accountable to your plan, whether you feel good or whether you don't feel good. And that is what keeps me going, a structure and a plan that I'm accountable to. It's got nothing to do with willpower. It's got nothing to do with internal strength. It's about a structure and a plan.
Thank you for that. Nthabaseng asks, are you satisfied with who you've become? And do you think there's still more you need to do?
You know, thank you. That's a great question. I was thinking about that today. When I was in the middle of, I remember like end of my first year of trending SA, Shaiga said to me, you know, Nina, you've come such a long way. Have you stopped to take a moment to say, wow, look how far I've come? Have you stopped to sit in where you're at and go, sure, I've come so far? And I said to him, no, not really. Because I take stock every day. Like, okay, cool. I'm grounded now. I feel grateful now. But I really feel like I have such a great purpose and such a huge vision that I kind of feel like, yes, okay, cool, I'm good here today, and I'm grateful for where I'm at today, but I don't think I'll ever be satisfied with where I'm at, because as soon as you become stagnant, you aren't open to society changes. We live in a dynamic world. Information is changing. Industry is changing. COVID-19. If I wasn't able to adjust and adapt and change all the time, then I wouldn't have been able to survive this given my industry. So I don't think you should ever be too comfortable with where you're at.
Nice. Any other questions, girls? Vanessa says, I don't have much to say, but Nina is officially my courageous leader. I like the fact that she mentioned that we need to normalize independence, and I also love that she touched something about the people we keep around us. That was very helpful. The validation was needed. She talked exactly to building your village, girls. That's exactly what she talked to. Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
And can I say something else? Building your village is important on every level. So everybody that I've worked with, or that has joined my company, or that I have had some sort of engagement with, I've tried to help them upskill themselves. So if there's anybody that hasn't had the agency to, when I say agency, like access to improve their life, I try my best to leave people that have worked with me in a better position than they were before, whether it's getting a driver's license, or doing their business plan, or giving them an opportunity to intern with another friend of mine. Try and allow each person that you engage with, particularly women, because you've actually got to make a concerted effort. If you don't have this in your plan and your structure, you're going to forget to do it. Have it in your plan that you upskill the women around you. It's the only way we're going to be better.
Nina, another question. What was the hardest part to accept in your life?
The hardest part to accept in my life, I think, is this thing that society, that I'm not, because this is, I mean, I've cried many nights, cried myself to sleep. You know, I made a lot of money in the last few years. I've just bought my second house. I've just, you know, not at the same time, just like the second purchase. I drive a sports car, crazy, silly things that are really wonderful. But I would still cry myself to sleep a lot of the time, because I was like, oh, I don't have anybody to share this with. Oh, my life is so pathetic. And then I was like, what are you talking about, Nina? You do share this life with people all the time. You do have rich, deep, meaningful connections with people. Like there's nothing lacking from my life. And I suspect that, and that doesn't mean that I don't want a partner. Please don't get me wrong. I do want to start a family at some point. I don't think that that's not an option for me. But I think that the importance of being happy in your own vision and your own dreams and your own power in society is more important than being validated by society because you now have a husband, or that you have now got children, or whatever. That is secondary, but we position that in our mind as primary, and we need to change that idea. You're not a person in society only when you get married. That's not the goal. The goal is to become a person in society that adds value. That's the goal. Everything else is secondary. And what that does is, when you are in a partnership and when you are in a relationship, if there's toxicity in that relationship, you can get out of that, because your goal isn't the relationship. Your goal is to be a better person.
And Swallow, you had your hand up. Did you have a question? Go ahead. Unmute.
Okay. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Nina, I wanted to ask, like, when was it where you finally decided, I need to change my life? Like, this is the last straw. I can't live like this anymore.
You know, Tinswalo, the thing about my life is you would think that losing everything, sleeping on the floor, the drug stuff, like being beaten, that was the last straw. That wasn't the last straw. You would think that my hair falling out and joining the circus and thinking that was the last straw. You don't know when that last straw is going to come. There's just a click that happens in your spirit one day, like where you go, okay, I actually can't do this anymore, because if I carry on like this, I'm going to die. So I don't, you think that the big thing is the last straw, but it's not. Sometimes you need to like wallow in stuff for a long time. I don't know. I don't really know what the last straw is. It was, I think, you know what it was? It was realizing that there were other people that were able to get themselves out of where I was at, and seeing that with my own eyes, that there was another way of being, and that there was another way of living, and that there were people that experienced things the way that I did, and that had the same behavior and the same pain and all of that as I did, but there was a real opportunity of change, and that I actually saw it, and that the fact that I could see it made a big difference to me.
Zanele would like to know if you ever had a trigger that came to mind that you would maybe fail and go back to your old ways.
Sure. You know, there are so many things that happened in this last while, the anxiety of COVID, all of that kind of stuff. And sometimes like heartbreak is a trigger. And I come back to the plan and the vision and the structure, because it's not willpower, it is not strength that creates your success. But if you have a plan and a vision, and you have this moment where like you could be triggered, and I have had moments where I have been triggered, but what I do is I play the movie to the end. I go, okay, cool. If I drink now, then that's going to set off a course of events that this movie ends badly. At the end of this movie, I die a tragic death and I affect other people. And I take it outside of myself and I play that movie out. My best friend had a relapse after 10 years, and it was one of the most painful things for me to witness. She had a child. She was drinking and driving. She almost lost custody of her child. I had to pick her up off the floor, drinking, and like it was just after she was sober for 10 years. And that impact of her relapse was really, really, it left such a mark on me that it's not in my plan. So I can't allow myself to go there.
Last question, Nina. Have you ever had any suicidal thoughts?
Yeah, suicide was also part of the thing. Actually, shucks, I just realized that. Sorry. Yeah, there's something else there.
You don't have to go into the details. I think just
no. I need to remember this. So I struggled with depression from about standard 9 or grade 11. So I had a suicide attempt. I think in I don't remember, but I was in my early 20s, and I woke up in the ambulance. It was really quite traumatizing for my sister and for my mom and the people around me. And I think a lot of the alcohol and things like that, as I said, was a way of me trying to treat trauma, trying to treat depression, just not knowing how to, you know. And if you are having suicidal thoughts, and if you are struggling with depression, you really should reach out to people. SADAG, I didn't have medical aid and things like that when I was initially trying to deal with my depression and things like that. There's a lot of open groups, a lot of free group therapy that you can access if you are not on medical aid and if you are struggling with mental health stuff. And if you are struggling with things like that, please feel free to reach out to me as well privately if you need to.
Okay, I'm going to ask the last question for the day. How did you know that where you are now is where you were destined to be?
Okay, now I'm going to get spiritual. I remember, I get visions sometimes. Sometimes they come in dreams, sometimes in the middle of the day, but I feel very strongly about things. And then like sometimes I'll listen, like my stomach will say, turn left here, then I'll turn left there. It happened now the other day, 2 days ago. Stop on the side of the road and do this. I said, okay, I stopped. And I had missed an armed robbery by 1 minute. It was just so crazy. Things like that happen to me all the time. You have to listen to that voice in your, as women, we have that intuition that you must really allow yourself that access. There's a reason why we give life, because we are beings of this planet. We are part of this whole thing. You can believe what you want. This is my faith and what I believe in. I had a vision that I was standing in front of women. This must have been about 15 years ago. I was standing in front of women and I was speaking to them. And at the time, these things hadn't happened to me. The traumas and things like that hadn't happened to me. And what was a very clear message that I was getting is what I'm about to go, I still have a lot of things that I need to go through before I get to the part where I am standing in front of the woman. And that I just need to be okay with that. And it's going to be hard. Yeah, it was very clear, as bright as day, that I could see that I was going to talk to women.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Everybody, please give Nina a beautiful thank you.
Thanks for this opportunity, guys. I hope that it leaves a mark or something, you know. I hope this makes change. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, darling.
Cool.
We will chat soon. Have a beautiful afternoon. Thank you.
Yes. Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, everyone, some really strong lessons there. I think I love what she said at the end about the information gathering years. And she talked exactly to that point about how sometimes you go on a journey and it might not all be positive, but while you're doing that, you're learning your path. You're finding out what it is that is important to you and where you finally have to end up. So we're now gonna split into our circles. The things that we're going to talk about in the circles are going to be your key lessons in terms of your information gathering your years, finding your mission, growing your network, and lastly, keeping your eye on the bigger picture. So I'm going to split you up now, and we will be back. We've got an hour in the circles, and then we'll come back.